I've been cooking this literally since I went in from breakfast. So there's Brussels sprout, oh, fly wanted it. Beets, roasted from the oven with the potatoes, boiled broccoli and corn, fava beans, and sauteed onions with garlic. And the gravy, I'll talk about that in a minute. I just have to get back to my food so that the flies don't get it.
Yeah,
because boy, the flies have come out in full force again.
Yeah, this is right, you know. Pestiferous.
So, my gravy, I have made it in the past and explained how to make it. It's rutabaga. So,
rutabaga gravy, yeah. You've made something like that before. Was it with rutabaga or was it with turnips?
No, it's rutabaga.
Yeah, it tastes great. It's amazing.
Yeah, you can
get something that tasty out of rutabaga.
Because the thing is I love working with rutabaga pulp. And if you've watched some of my videos showing how to make burgers in the past, you'll see why.
Got a bit of leaf in there.
But anyway, rutabaga gravy. So what you do is you juice. Today I juiced about 1 kilogram worth of rutabaga after peeling them. So you wash them, peel them, juice them, and then
those were those 2 rutabagas you had, or was it just one?
Well, I juiced 2, but I put half of it in the fridge because I didn't want to have to go to all the work of juicing for
So those together were probably more like 4 kilograms, right?
They were huge.
Yeah, they were very impressive. And I thought you were saying, geez,
it was
those
very
were
hard
only 2 kilograms. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, it was very hard to peel them and hard to cut them, but I have a very good knife, very thick blade. You need something like that if you're going to be
that one,
cutting
that one looks
pumpkins
positively
and
dangerous.
Yes. So please don't break into my house. I have a good pumpkin knife.
So take note, we're not the sort of people that go out and aggressively seek out confrontations, but I'm afraid.
Don't want it, but
I'm afraid.
At this point in my life, you know, when I was younger, I would have been like, "Oh, please don't hurt me," or whatever, and been totally passive. At this point in my life, you know, I think enough has. I've been kicked around enough that I really. It's better that you just stay out of my house. Please don't break into my house.
If you threaten our health or life, we are going to stand up for ourselves. Understand?
But anyway, rutabaga gravy. Back to that. So, to make it this lovely brown color, because it won't go as brown as this, I used no additive dark rye for the flour. So you brown that in, sorry Angel, you brown that in the pan. You get a pan with a side on it like that, whatever, good gravy pan. So anyway, you brown that in the pan. You don't put any oil or anything. You don't need it. And then you take your, you can put your salt and your pepper right in with the flour. And then you have one hand for stirring, whichever hand you want, and the other hand for pouring, whichever hand you want. So stir, 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 pour, pour, pour. The rutabaga juice in, you just keep stirring. You got to keep, so you brown the gravy on a high heat, you turn it down to a low heat, and you do the stirring. So then once you have that all worked out, you know, it's going to be a little bit thinner than a gravy, but you can see that it's thickening up with the flour. So you add some Marmite. So
the Marmite's one of the keys, when you say,
so
for the taste.
About a tablespoon of Marmite, and that'll darken her right up to a nice, it'll look just like a beef gravy. It does not taste anything like a beef gravy, So definitely
Thank heavens. I mean,
tell
the taste of meat
your
is
people
bad.
that you're cooking for that you've made a rutabaga gravy. Or tell them it's not a beef gravy. It's a vegetarian gravy or a vegan gravy. Because this meal's vegan.
What's the active ingredient or active ingredients? Are the active ingredients in Marmite? It's relatively safe, right? It's not like monosodium glutamate or whatever, right?
It's a yeast.
Okay.
A yeast spread. So some people are opposed to eating yeast. I really, at this point in my life, I haven't seen any reason to avoid it.
Now, what are their arguments about it?
I don't know.
Because we're not looking to
No.
pass bad judgments on the people. We're trying to come up with good judgments for ourselves.
Yeah.
And then present them as possible ways of thinking for other people. We encourage people to listen to what we're saying, but also check it out and get a good fund of knowledge, good database, and do their own research and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, don't try this at home until you've done your homework.
But as much as I have been cooking for hours now, I have a lovely carrot chai here.
Time, yeah.
Oh, so lovely. And I have enough food now, not only for the dogs. I mean, they got to eat basically the same thing that we're eating.
Yeah.
And
there was a little bit of snarling and whatever. It's not as though they were hesitant or whatever.
No, they're generally pretty big fans of my cooking.
Yeah.
But
they're not of each other. They're chihuahuas after all. So. Yeah, they wouldn't make it a wolf pack, you know, like their teeth really can't do much damage.
But when I give them beans and peas, I puree it, because otherwise they don't like to eat it.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know why they won't chew it up for themselves, but they don't want it.
Well, one of them doesn't have very good dentition, you know? But the others, I don't really understand it. The one little guy lost a tooth. Just we didn't know what it was, you know. It came out of his mouth, and I'm saying, I think that's a tooth. That was. But he comes from genes that aren't the greatest. His dad had epileptic fits. And he's got epileptic fits too. Seems to be a genetic component.
Only with the boys, though, and possibly not all of them.
Though.
But it's Anna-Frid. As much as she has health problems, you know, of her own.
I think that's more because she was so.
Because she
had so much trouble at the beginning.
Yeah, like she didn't get what do you call it? The colostrum and stuff like that. She wouldn't have gotten any.
So she would have died if Pauline was so patient with her. She wasn't strong enough to feed herself when she was just born. Somehow or another, Pauline kind of helped her.
Anyway, what was I going to say? So I made enough food for definitely for us for tonight, probably tomorrow too. So
that's great.
And enough for the dogs, of course. So it took a long time, but there's leftovers.
Yeah, the dogs really don't eat that much. They're so small.
Yeah. So you brought a book out, I know.
Oh yeah, a couple of books.
You gonna review?
I'm going to preview.
Oh.
Preview. Maybe a bit of a disappointment. What? There you go. Boom. Agatha Christie. Les crimes de l'Orient Express. The crime of the Orient Express. It is an exact translation. Murder on the Orient Express. It should be something like Meurtre. If it was straight across translation, there you go. I'm working my way through this the way I worked through Sylvia Plath's Bell Jar, translated into Norwegian, and Agatha Christie's, I always can't remember which one that was. Oh yeah. It's called By the Pricking of My Thumbs in the English version, and The Doll in the Chimney in the Dutch version. So here you go. You can see going through. I'm getting pretty well every word, with the exception of personal place names. And place names, if like Istanbul, it's not Istanbul, Istanbul in French. I'm mispronouncing it badly, but they put an M where we put an N, and they spell it O-U-L at the end. So it's ul and not il.
Interesting.
The U in French is very different from a U in English. Our U in English, they tend to spell O-U. So that I will, spell out and stuff like that. So here we go. There's 400 pages. There's a lot of empty pages and things like that. And there's some illustrations in here, so on and so forth. So I'm marking, having gone through more than half of it, a little bit more than half of it, using that process. Yesterday, I counted it up. I keep track of how much time I spend on the actual translation, as it were. So I go through the translation 4 times, and then I'll go through the English once. So that's 5 readings, and 2 of them with writing. One is the initial writing, and then the second one is the correction. And so yesterday I calculated it was 8 hours and 20 minutes I spent on this sort of stuff. It was over 40 pages, almost 50 pages. I did other things as well. I did some, while I was over at my place, I did some French crossword puzzles. And as I recall, I did a little bit on The First Circle of Hell, which is not the original Russian, but translated into German. And then I was working with the English translation, going back and forth and stuff like that. So here's the thing, over 8 hours on this, and working on other things. There are at least a couple of people out there in the world who really, they're motivated to be better than that, but not motivated enough. What they want to go around is strutting around saying that they know more than I do in a variety of different disciplines. That's not the way you do it. It's not a fait accompli. You just don't go and say, I know more than so-and-so. It's good to have people, ideals, things to aim for. It's better to actually look at yourself and say, how can I improve myself? But maybe it works for some people. Hey, I want to be like that person, or I want to be better than that person. Here's the challenge. You've actually got to deliver. And when you're aiming at me, you're not aiming at a sitting duck. You're aiming at a moving target, and it's moving away from you. It's not at light speed. I don't work like that. I work slow but surely. And I move. I keep on moving. It's like when you're doing defense in hockey. Keep your feet moving. And that's what I do. It's like playing defense in hockey. It's like a plumber's job. I do the plumbing. And I get stuff done. The occasional person has called me the G word. They've called me lots of other initial words, but the G word. There's no such thing as the G word, i.e. genius. It's just you do the job. You actually put the time in. You try, try to work smart. In other words, avoid other people's mistakes and try to find out when people have made good decisions and try to duplicate those decisions. And then there's courage. Once you come up with some decent conclusions based on some real data, not on something that you've dreamed up between your ears, then you'd better have the courage to come out and say the truth. And that's what this show, at least my part of it, is about. And I think it is for Pauline too. Too true to be good. Not too good to be true. Because this stuff is true. It's true. Too true to be good. You won't like a lot of the stuff that I'm saying. But then you don't have the data. Most of the stuff that I come up with, the conclusions, I don't like coming up with them. I'm going, oh, it's too bad that reality is that bad. But, you know, you've got to face reality sometime. You cannot be going around in cloud cuckoo land. You can't be going around with pink-colored glasses. Or pinko-colored glasses, or whatever glasses you've got. Red and black-colored glasses, if you tend toward the Nazi side of things. You can't go around strutting around or goose-stepping around like that. Because, what is it someone said? Ignorance is bliss. Yes, it is, until reality comes and beats you upside the head. That's what COVID is about. It'll start beating you upside the head if you keep on letting it get out of hand. Because you look, the second wave, the Spanish flu, it was going after people in their 20s. We've avoided that. The first wave was going after young pups, so far. The first wave went after old folks, but young, you know, like infants too, people who didn't have their immunities. We've been very lucky this time, the average person. Old folks, it hasn't gone so well for them. But ignorance is bliss. Until reality comes and beats you upside the head.
Yeah.
Pray it doesn't. With the COVID.
Honestly, it's upsetting for me to see how many people don't care about other people. To see how many people.
Well, it's just old folks.
Just old people.
It's
you know,
people with
anyway,
compromised immune systems.
You know, this is nature's way of culling the herd.
Culling the herd.
Or whatever.
Oh, it's no worse than ordinary flu.
Yeah.
It's thousands of times more virulent. And or
honestly,
catchy.
If I realize that elderly people, a lot of them, that, you know, like, I talk to my grandmother and she's like, oh, well, you know, we make room for the young people. And, you know, not everybody feels that way. And if some people feel that way, okay, I understand a lot of people do. But it's murder when you just decide, okay, well, we're going to let the certain amount of people die from this. We're just going to continue on and infect a whole bunch of elderly people so that
it's like
knock
a
off.
Way of urban renewal.
Yeah.
Just clear some people
out. It's wrong. It's murder. It's you don't know if the elderly people that fell to COVID so far, they might have lived another 20 years. Sure, they might have only lived a year. They might have lived 20. And in that 20 years, they might have worked on their greatest masterpiece that made their whole life worthwhile, or whatever. They could have came up with, you know, just figured out, oh, this is the cure for cancer. This is the whatever. You don't know.
Since the 10 years since I was diagnosed with cancer, I've come up with so many things.
Yeah.
Structure of the nucleus.
And frankly, you've taught me. So in that amount of time, since I've been here, you know, yeah, I spend some time making meals and whatever. It takes a lot of time. But maybe if I didn't spend this time, maybe he wouldn't live as long. I don't know.
Here's the deal. I'm 67. Pauline, what are you, 46 now? I just can't believe. that you got that many years in. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. I could die tomorrow from COVID. You see what I'm doing? Every day. It's pretty well 8 hours a day. I'm leaving the average person out there behind. Ultimately, it adds up to light years.
But yes,
I'm capable of so
every
much
day
more
you're
than you
working on things
idiots
while
out there. And I
getting
don't
the
know
food and the
who else.
laundry
What
and
was that?
whatever. Like while I'm getting the cleaning and the cooking and the whatever done, you get a lot of things done. And
Even
in
when I was
between-
working more than 8 hours a day,
yes, I know.
I
In
got a lot
between-
of things done.
Yes.
I got
In between the cooking and the whatever else that I'm doing, that is just boring stuff, really, frankly. It's not, but it has to be done. So in between that, I am learning a lot from him. So
Well, the other thing is, like, you
He's
could
not
die
only-
from the COVID,
yeah,
and
So-
you actually learned. I've taught people who haven't learned.
Yeah.
They've almost gone backwards. Not many. Most people are actually pretty good at learning.
So recently I was thinking about all the things and I mean, there's some things that are really, they're easily quantifiable. If I look at the poetry from before, I look at it now and I go, oh, yeah, this works.
You made so much progress
Yeah.
in the space of, what,
So-
4 months or something like that?
And I mean,
April,
I
May,
was-
June, July, August, 5 months.
I was really focusing on it. So when I was doing that, frankly, we were eating not as good as we're eating right now. Like I was really, I was eating a lot. Like this was last summer, so I'd come back from hike,
Well, we'd hike.
and then
That's part of
it is
writing
staying
poetry.
healthy and
Well,
writing
staying
poetry.
healthy.
So and
You
then
got
I'd
better
come
have
back
some
and
stuff to write
I'd
poetry
have a
about.
smoothie, so it doesn't take that much time. So to prepare, so I'd have smoothie. I don't know what I was making you, probably burgers or sandwich or
No, it's
something
the burgers. The
not
burgers
as
are great.
not as I don't know, time.
Consume.
Yeah, I don't know, to make. It doesn't take as much time to make things like that. So, and I'll get a bunch of them made and
Yeah,
put
and
in the
then
freezer here, and then
you'd unfreeze them. And
yeah. So then
Warm 'em
they're
up.
basically ready. So I'm getting all that. Well, I'm getting this stuff juiced and whatever. It seems like a lot of time, and it is. But the pulp, I make burgers out of it, and so they're ready to go when times when we're really, maybe I don't have enough energy, maybe I'm depressed or whatever. Well, I can put that on. Get them a burger ready, or nuggets, or these things they're instant, right? And they're very expensive to buy. You don't want to have to buy this instant stuff. Make it yourself. You know what's going in it that way. And yeah, I use the chickpea flour, and it's not as healthy as rinsing and sprouting my own beans repeatedly, whatever. Keep rinsing. I feel better about that when I cook the beans that way than when I use chickpea flour, for sure. But anyway, but beside the point, what I was wanting to say is I'm learning a lot too. So if COVID knocks out James, I'll still be learning, I suppose. I mean, I'll go back to school and
well, you've
get a
learned how to
master's
learn.
and this
I'm
and
telling
whatever,
you. You already knew it pretty good. But like with the poetry, I don't really have to teach you anything, because there'd be the occasional thing where you ask me. It's like what it became with us learning Akkadian. We took one semester of Akkadian, that's ancient Babylonian and Assyrian, and then the professor just set us loose. And the two other people in the class are really sharp. One of them's a professor out of the University of Mathematics, and the other's a woman who next year she was into Harvard. And they actually wanted to ask this professor, who's on sabbatical, a few questions that we don't have. We've already been set on the right pattern by him. And, like, if anyone taught the course, it was me. But it was largely just us working stuff out, That's, when you get good enough, that's what you do. You just work things out. They say that the best mathematicians, what they do is they'll have a tutor or something like that, and the tutor will say, this will be like in high school or something like that. I've taught you everything I know.
Yeah.
Here is such and such's book. Boom, 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 boom.
But
and
frankly,
they'll go through a
if
book
you
like that
have
in a week.
somebody that's really keen on learning, a lifelong learner like James, who he still has his mind about it. Even with all the chemo brain, and I mean, he's lost some things, like...
The more short-term memory, long-term memory is amazing.
Like losing keys and stuff, things like that.
Yeah, it's just like short-term memory. I'll just drop something somewhere.
He doesn't, or he'll forget. Every day he forgets, like, oh, I forget the most important thing, or I forget whatever.
It's short-term memory.
Yeah, but...
The long-term memory's incredible.
Yeah. So... he has lost some things with the chemo brain, but I mean, he's so far ahead of everyone else that...
Like when I took, you could take mine, it was a woman who was 21 years old. She started learning Mayan. She was Mayan ancestor. She started learning at 18. She'd done a great job because in the 3 years she got to the point where she could teach it to people who were just starting off. And so she was like an exchange, not student, but exchange teacher. 21 years old, awesome. And so she came up here. And what she said to me is, so I just turned senior that year, 65. She said, you're learning it faster than I did. And she's a good student, learning it faster than her. I think she was probably exaggerating somewhat, but still. The main way I learn is not so much fast. I try to learn.
But what I'm saying is I would like to set up a housing project that takes the people who, because there's a lot of retirement centers out there, like James's father was living in an adult center where they provide the meals and stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what he was paying. It was something like $2,000 a month to live there.
It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
And if he had more money to dispense out, he would have been paying more.
Yeah, it was ridiculous because he just got a small little. It was basically 2 rooms.
It was 2 rooms and a washroom. So a bedroom, a washroom, and a kind of like a little cubby hole for a kitchen and then a living room.
Is a place where passive personality types mentor passive personality types. So you take people who have a lot to contribute still mentally to younger people, and the younger people help do the preparing the foods, the gardening, the cleaning, the whatever. And so you have an apprenticeship sort of program where the younger people end up owning the place that the older people are paying into for the care. So you get the same care that you would get at these stupid centers where some American is filling his pockets with Canadian
this was an American
retired
outfit that my dad was in.
Money. But the passive